Hello there, everybody. Welcome. This is Neil with Portal to Ascension. Welcome back to the portal, everybody. Hope you're doing beautifully today. And I'm very excited for today's guest, someone that I really love having on Portal to Ascension and love going deep into. And today is an interesting topic. So I just want to say hello and welcome to everybody on YouTube. We're live on Instagram, we're live on Twitter, and we also have Portal to Ascension Radio. So this is going to be the audio of this will be on our podcast. And I don't announce it enough, but I'm letting you guys know that we do have a podcast as well. We have over 500 episodes on there. And if you want to tune into the podcast, listen to the audio in times where you can't check out the video, please do go ahead and check out the podcast as well. And hello to everybody who watches on that. So today's conversation is with Margaret Rigoglioso. And I'm excited about this because not only is Marguerite, I would say, one of the foremost researchers on Mother Mary, but she is definitely, from what I understand, the foremost researcher when it comes to Immaculate Conception and virgin births. And I am very much into, the awareness on these scenes, Yeshua's life, Mother Mary, and I'm into it, but I don't know as much as I would like to know. So today is kind of going to be a journey for all of us tuning in here, where we're going to be diving deep into the life of Mother Mary and Marguerite's new book. So let me just go ahead and read Marguerite's bio, and then we'll get right into it. So Marguerite is the founder of Seven Sisters Mystery School, a world-renowned teacher of sacred knowledge and the foremost authority on the history of virgin birth. A trusted mentor to people on healing and spiritual paths, she draws on her decades-long research and experiences with Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene to help uncover their hidden timeless teachings and apply them to our present-day needs. The award-winning author of several books, including The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing, and Planetary Awakening, and The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, Mary and the Lineage of Virgin Birth. And she lives in Western Massachusetts. Her website is Seven Sisters Mystery School. We've done a few events with Marguerite's individual workshops. We have one coming up in January. This weekend, she's going to be on the Palladian Conference because her information and connection to the Pleiades and the Palladian connection is extremely profound. And we also did probably one of my favorite presentations that we had on Portal to Ascension was the mysteries of Immaculate Conception and virgin births, and really did shed a lot of light on the priestess school and the lineage that had been going on for years, even before the Marys, of virgin births that were occurring on the planet and souls being called into this reality. So we're going to go ahead and touch on many different topics today. So let's go ahead and welcome Marguerite. Welcome, Marguerite.
Hi, Neil. Thank you so much for having me.
Good to see you. And so I would love for it just to start out with, I see a lot of what you're doing. You touch on a lot of different topics, but Mother Mary seems to be something that is very close to your heart. So I'd love to know, what was your journey that took you to being so inspired by the Mary energy?
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Well, I say a bit about that in this new book that you just mentioned. And the timing of our interview, The Secret Life of Mother Mary, here is such that, this book is coming out July 16th, 2024, as of this filming. And so it's going to be launched. People are already ordering it. But what, I share some of that personal story, and then it's mainly about Mother Mary, this life about her that we don't know about because all the documents have been sort of hidden away and ignored. Not to mention the personal experiences of people all over the world for, thousands of years. And just letting you know you're unmuted when you're typing. But so my connection with Mother Mary, it really began, in the Catholic Church, right? I was brought up Catholic. And it's not that I come at her from a Catholic perspective now in this book or in any of the things that I teach. But she was always kind of there, of course, the mother of Jesus. But the weird thing is that she's sort of disappeared in the canonical Christian documents. Mary Magdalene comes up as a bit of a more interesting person. And so, I knew she was there, but I didn't have really a strong devotion to her. But it wasn't until I started awakening to the sacred feminine, awakening to the goddess in my late 20s, that I and my early 30s. And as I entered into the goddess movement, and there were teachers around me saying, hey, Mother Mary is a form of the goddess. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's been in my backyard the whole time. And I started learning more about her. And I kind of started learning, on that intellectual level. But as the years progressed, I realized she's an active presence. I started getting into Mary Magdalene and feeling her as an active presence. And then I went back to Mother Mary and I said, okay, she's an active presence. What is she all about? And when I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, I met women who had devotions to Mother Mary. And again, they were not coming from the Catholic perspective. They were coming from more the esoteric perspective, which I know is something that you dearly appreciate. And one of them, my friend Mary Beth Moser, had this devotion to the positive valenced Black Madonna, because there's, the negative Black Madonna, but there's the positive Black Madonna. And that was really a revelation to me. Like, here was this very intelligent woman. Then Charlene Spretnak, who was one of my teachers at the California Institute of Integral Studies, a real intellectual giant. She had a devotion to Mother Mary, and she had just written a book on Mother Mary when I entered into that school and started taking classes with her. And then Diana Marie Kelly, taught me, oh, you can have Mother Mary work with you as a healer, as a spiritual mentor. You can have her remother you. And I was like, ding, ding, remother, because, I lost my mother when I was 10 years old to lupus. So that, that started me on the death mystery initiation process. And so, I started getting into it that way. So like the intellectual and my research started dovetailing with my personal communication with Mother Mary. And then I had a bunch of synchronicities with her over the last, 5 years or so that I detail in this book, in one of the beginning chapters that people can read about, but that really helped me to understand more of who she's all about and how she works with us.
Right. And was there a time where you shifted out of Catholicism and then you rediscovered it later, or was it
Yeah.
a gradual awakening to it? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, in college, right? I went to Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, New York, and I was in part of the folk group Mass. There was this little group that we sang, and I started detaching from Catholicism then, basically freshman year of college. I was like, this is just not interesting to me. I sensed that I was a deep spiritual person, but there was no context back then. That was like, the early 80s. And so I kind of left it. And again, it really wasn't until, Neil, I started getting into the goddess movement and I heard from these other teachers, these people around me in these programs I was doing at that time in the Boston area. I was living in the Boston area. Then I went to California for 20 years. And then I've kind of come back to Massachusetts. And they were having like I did this program on women's spirituality, and they had this whole module connected to Mother Mary. And I thought, oh gosh, wow, here it is. Let me go back in. Then I found out that she was the overlay in the country of my origin, Italy, and Sicily in particular, where there had been an earlier veneration to Demeter and Persephone. And those were like the first two goddesses for me that were my entree into the sacred feminine, because theirs was a story of mother-daughter separation and loss, just as I had experienced. And Persephone had been gifted Sicily by her father. It was a gift to her. And essentially, Sicily was a gift to me by my father, because, I have 3/4 Sicilian heritage. So I started investigating that and going on these goddess pilgrimages to Sicily that were all about Mother Mary, but the undercurrent was Demeter and Persephone. And that's where like my spiritual sacred feminine roots really connected with what I had understood from Catholicism. And I just took my work with Mother Mary to whole new levels.
Wow, it's so beautiful how like this kind of similar to me because I was raised Hindu and then I shifted out of I became kind of atheist actually. I let go of religion, and then when I started waking up and seeing other synchronicities in the world, it brought me back to the esoteric, the deeper truth of this text,
Yeah,
without the organized religion and everything that's compiled
exactly.
upon it. So similar thing that happened with you, it seems.
Yeah, we want to find the mystical truths underneath these basic religions, right? And they
Yeah,
are there. I mean,
exactly.
essentially, the whole entire Christendom is founded on the fact that this sacred woman, who we call Mother Mary, gave parthenogenetic birth to her avatar son, Jesus, and she was parthenogenetically born by her mother, Anne, which I really detail in the mystery tradition of miraculous conception. And that's the basis of the religion. Now, that really goes missing. We hardly hear anything about Mother Mary. We hear more about her in the Islamic Quran than we do there. But I'll tell you what most recently brought me back even deeper to Mother Mary was in 2017, Neil. I went to a course called the Holy Womb Chakra System. And this was at the Divine Lineage Center in California, the Divine Mother Center, they call it now, which is like an offshoot ashram of Sri Kaleshwar, who's this Hindu
Mhm.
saint. And he has brought back all these teachings of the Holy Womb Chakra from these ancient palm leaf manuscripts that he collected from India and beyond that talk about these mantras and these yantras, these sacred drawings that Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, and Jesus, among other sages of the world, used and also created for the world to clear and uplift the Holy Womb Chakra. And in that, and I talk about it in the mystery in the Secret Life of Mother Mary, how I was sitting in that class and the teacher, Cindy Lindsay, was reading what Sri Kaleshwar had said about Mother Mary being the highest level holy adept who ever walked the planet, even more than Jesus, because she was his teacher, and how she resurrected him through her womb, which is, I have a whole chapter devoted to that in this book.
Oh,
Yeah, I was totally electrified, right?
yeah.
That was a further iteration of the Christianity of my childhood. And here
Yeah.
was this Hindu man giving me my tradition back and showing us how these traditions cross in everything.
Mhm.
You can find the presence of Mother Mary in the form of the Hindu goddesses. You can find her, everywhere, right?
Yeah.
In Kuan Yin, every place. There are overlays in the Pleiades, and I'm going to
Right,
talk
right.
a little bit about that on Saturday's presentation. And William Henry really has gotten into this with me, that Mother Mary and the Pleiades are like this. All right, the seven sisters of the Pleiades. So
Very interesting.
these are just some tidbits on just relating to what you were saying about finding the deeper layers within your own tradition. And then I love like
Right.
convergence of Hindu and Christianity. Everything is related. There's
Oh yeah.
no separation between anything, right?
No, no. And another just before we get deeper into your book, I want to ask you a question in a second. But just to kind of dovetail on what you just said, your connection to Mary and then seeing the connection into the Hindu scriptures. My connection to this awakening was realizing Krishna and Yeshua's connection, which is
See,
also is. So you
exactly,
were on the.
exactly. And
Yeah.
Sri Kaleshwar talks a lot about Jesus,
Hmm.
and the connection to the male Hindu gods, in particular Shiva. He really connects him strongly up with Shiva, that he's an emanation of Shiva. And so there we go, right? And how are Shiva, Vishnu, and Krishna related, right? So they're not really different either, just the way that Isis and the Hathors and all those goddesses and Mother Mary are all related in the
Right.
Egyptian tradition. Like, it just goes on and on.
I mean, in Hinduism, we have the Holy Trinity, Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma.
Yeah.
Brahman.
Yeah, Brahma.
Brahman is the overhead, and then the
That's right.
Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, Holy Trinity, and
Right.
they were a reincarnation of that Holy Trinity, which is similar to Jesus' story, right?
Right. So it like unites us across the globe. All
Yeah.
these mystical, esoteric, timeless teachings and empowerments are there for everyone, just regardless of our racial lines, if you want to call it that, regardless
Yep.
of our religions that we've been born into.
There's an original source,
There
and we can
is
track it back. Yes,
much
yes.
deeper.
So, so the question I want to ask you before we go into some things about your extra book is: have you ever had any thoughts about why Catholicism? In Catholicism, there's saints, right? And then there's Mother Mary. It's like it's through Mother Mary, right? And then we have um, the um, the the fragmentation from the Catholicism with Protestantism, and then all these other
Yes.
factions. And then Mother Mary was not held in high regard, as it, and in some of them they don't even really talk about Mother Mary. It's just Yeshua. So have you ever given any thought to what really happened there in that shift?
Yes, a lot of thought, Neil, because that's the whole trajectory of patriarchy right there.
Mm.
The disappearing of the woman who is actually the figurehead creator of the entire enterprise. That's what we've got. Okay. When Mother Mary was alive in the lifetime that we know her of as Mary, and as Rudolf Steiner says, before that, she was Isis walking the planet. She's had many incarnations. She came in, and there's this gospel written about the whole birth of her, infancy of her, and her creation of Jesus. It's called the Infancy Gospel of James, originally titled Birth of Mary. And you can see how even the scholars start disappearing her from the name of the gospel itself. She came in during the Roman Empire. The height of what we might call a reptilian incursion onto the planet and an injection into those holy sites of Italy of a far different energy that had to do with a Martian energy, a Mars. Mars is the foundational colony, deity, and so forth in Rome through Romulus and Remus. The birth of Romulus and Remus is a divine birth story through Rhea Silvia, who's essentially raped or conscripted by Mars. Okay, gives birth to these, and then they found one of them, Romulus, founds Rome. That is the incursion of the reps into that whole thing. So here's Mother Mary, deep diddy diddy, coming into the Middle East, and they're like, hey, we're gonna like turn this ship around. And so it's this lineage of women who's like, yeah, we're turning this ship around. Sarah, and then Anne, Mary's mother, Mary, all the Mary priestesses that are around her, Magdalene, and so forth. And Mother Mary brings forth Jesus. And so she's coming in at a very difficult time. But James, who's one of the sons of Joseph, who kind of is her guardian, Mary's guardian, writes down this precious gospel. But what happens? It gets rejected by the official Council of Nicaea and these other councils that are deciding what we are going to be telling people. Okay, so all of these texts, a lot of them have gone missing, and they have the power of the feminine in them, the power and the presence of Mother Mary in them. We more have the presence of Mary Magdalene in the Gnostic Gospels, which shards of which still exist. But this one, thank goodness, Birth of Mary Gospel is our lifeline into Mother Mary. And then it seems there were other documents, Neil, in the ancient world that a couple of wonderful scholars, Stephen Shoemaker and Ali Cattouse, in their strongly academic books, talk about these other probable biographies that were written about Mother Mary in like the 400, 500, 600 after Jesus, that we're relying on some other ancient texts that are probably lost to us now. So there was a purge of these texts. There was a purge and a rejection of the existing texts in Christendom. And then the Mass, forget about it. Mother Mary is hardly even there. And this is what happens in patriarchy. The very strong feminine gets dismantled, disappeared, or denigrated. Okay, that's it.
Right. So I would love to track back the history just a little bit here to get some context, because we have obviously 300 and something years after Yeshua is on earth, we have Catholicism becoming the Roman Catholic Church, Rome, Constantine making Christianity, the religion of the empire, and we see Mother Mary being connected to that. But as you just mentioned, there was a hijacking, some reptilian energy that was the origination of the Roman Empire, and obviously the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, you can just talk all day about the conspiracies about how they hijacked it,
Yes.
what the debates were in Nicaea, and all of
That's
that.
right.
However, Mother Mary was the cornerstone of it, but maybe in a way where they've taken control. And just so one other thing before you comment on this. So in those 300 years, though, we have stories of Mary Magdalene and other individuals, and even maybe Yeshua not transitioning, but going to Egypt, south of France, going
That's
to
right.
Glastonbury in England, and taking the original Christian church that was feminine based, right, and establishing them in certain places in the world. So I'd love for you to give some kind of historical
Yes.
context of what actually occurred after Yeshua, after the whole crucifixion scenario.
Yeah, after the whole crucifixion. And I am tapped into that timeline where the crucifixion did happen. I think there can be alternate timelines where it didn't happen. And and so forth. But what I talk about in The Secret Life of Mother Mary is Sri Kaleshwar's description of the resurrection of Jesus, that basically he did almost leave his body at the cross. He hung on by a thread. He was involved in serious yogic practices to deal with that ordeal, as was Mother Mary and probably Mary Magdalene at the time. But he tells us more what they are: Atma Kandana Yoga and Parakaya Pravesh, which have to do with taking a soul out of a body and then bringing it back in, bringing it back to life. Jesus knew how to do that with Lazarus and that story. Well, Mother Mary knew how to do it with Jesus. And I talk about what Sri Kaleshwar says about how she literally brought him back to life. And Kaleshwar's contention is that Jesus and Mary Magdalene went to India. And they had a life there, and that there's records of them being there in these various mountains and so forth. Okay, so that's one thing. That's one potential timeline of what happened. Obviously, there's another timeline that, well, Mary Magdalene went to France. Okay, and that whole situation. Now, Mother Mary, I will say it here. First time I'm making this comment publicly. She was essentially the first pope, if we're going to look at it that way, right? Peter wasn't the first pope. Mary Magdalene wasn't the first pope. It was Mother Mary. She was the teacher of them. She was their mentor. She was the head of the whole Christian enterprise, or let's say the Jesus group, after the crucifixion. Whether Jesus actually died and went into the other realm, or whether he went over to India, whatever happened here, she was in charge, all right, in Jerusalem and Bethlehem, all right? It was her. And she was the head of the women and the men. Magdalene became the head then under her of the women group, and Peter became the head of the men. Peter was never the head of the whole thing, okay? Mary was. She worked with John, the beloved disciple who really supported her, and some of Jesus's other step siblings, we might say, through Joseph, okay, who by his previous marriage had other children. Okay. And they were all part of this retinue. Mother Mary was the mentor. She was the one who held the ground. She was the one who gave them these books. Apparently, there were these books that they would take and teach in the known world. Like they went far and wide, these apostles and these disciples. And every Easter, at the time of the crucifixion, they would come back and Mother Mary would be like, tell me what's happened. What do you need? How can I support you? Do we ever hear about this? No, but you can hear about it in the Life of Mary by presumably Maximus, one of these rare gospels, and these other Syriac, biographies about her and things like that. The 6 books which were written describing Mary's ascension. You'll love this because there's a whole chapter devoted to how Mary ascended, the realms and rungs she went through. Okay, here's a woman who actually had her ascension. Everybody's wondering, how do we do our ascension? Well, take a look at Mother Mary's journey, as she's like leaving her body. So in a way, like the Catholic Church wasn't all wrong. Like they have these little hidden things. They say she was assumed into heaven, the Assumption, the Feast of the Assumption. It's not all wrong. She didn't really die the way everyone thinks. She had a rainbow body experience. Yeah. Her body disappeared too. Okay. So these are all of some of the things, the secrets of her life that I resurrect and that are in here. And that really show us not only it's interesting historically, wow, but this is a living woman, a living presence who made her ascension and is now on this higher plane, able to help us with our personal and our spiritual needs.
Right. It makes sense because as we've been discussing, Mother Mary was the foundation of the original Christian church.
The whole thing.
Roman Catholicism and before that. And it was hundreds of years later until Yeshua was put in front of Mary.
That's right. I mean, first of all, she created the whole thing. It was her plan. Kaleshwar, I talk about how Kaleshwar says she worked with Mother Divine. She's like, wow, this earth plane is a little fakaked, all right? She's come into the Roman Empire and it's like, holy crap. And she's like, what can I do? And, I talk about the Mother Divine's response to her and why it was that she needed to bring a masculine, a Shiva energy into the earth. Okay. And she orchestrated that. And her mother orchestrated the birth of Mary before that. So this is like a lineage of essentially, hundreds of years of planning that have gone on. And there's this one channeler who said that this was planned for 500 years, Lavender. Okay. She's another channeler. And that makes sense to me. It would take 500 years of lineage planning to get to the point of Mother Mary and then to get to the point of Jesus.
So if she was chosen to be, whether chosen by the divine, chosen by her mother, or chosen by God to be the one to bring Yeshua into this world, if she was a part of the Essene, she must have been a really high Essene.
She was a high adult. And here's the thing, Neil. No, she chose.
Yeah.
This was her idea. She's not a passive receptacle. She saw there were problems. She went into her deep meditations with Mother Divine and she got instructions of what to do. And then she orchestrated it because she had been trained in divine conception by the virgins who were part of this whole cadre that her mother was involved in through this probably Essene temple.
Right.
Okay. She was, her third chakra was big into this. It's not like, oh, let it be done according to thy will, whatever. No, I mean, she was really active with, I'm going to change the world.
Yeah, it was intentionally done.
Yes. This is a feminine exercise.
That's a perfect segue into us taking a step back. And I would love for you to now just kind of outline what the historical meanings of the words Mary and Virgin are. Because So I know in Greece, I know I forget now, but it had a different meaning than what we consider it now. And
That's right.
also, you've touched on the Marys a few times. I think
That's
I've
right.
heard you say that. Is that right? So maybe you
That's
can
right.
tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, virgin, the term in Greek, which is the one that we find in these manuscripts, the Christian Bible and so forth, is parthenos. Parthenos, which means a woman. It means to be born. Oh, sorry. Parthenogenesis comes from parthenos and gignesthai, meaning to be born of a maiden or a virgin. But Parthenos is the virgin. It's not in the way we think of it, like, oh, a little girl or an adolescent or somebody who hasn't had sex. Yes, there could have been a celibacy about this woman because she's consolidating her energetic powers. She cannot have penetration by the male to do the particular things that people like Mary want to have at that level of it. There are other virgins who do engage in sexuality, okay? But virgin meaning whole in themselves, meaning they've gone through the bridal chamber process of inner unification that's described in the Gnostic sources. They become one, they become the inner androgyne. That's what allows any sort of birthing to be happening out of the body without the interaction of male sperm, okay? So that's a parthenos, a sacred holy woman, a sacred holy virgin. And Mother Mary was that parthenos par excellence. She was like the apex of what a parthenos could be because she brought in the highest level being that's ever come through this means, okay? And then her name, Mary, it comes originally from the Mariam or the Miriam in the Hebrew or Aramaic. And that goes back, Neil, to the word Mary, how we transliterate it as Mary, which is an Isis epithet. Okay. It means beloved of, the loving one, and the lover, the one. So the one who is loved, the one who is love, and the one who loves. That's the name, the title Mary. And it was associated with Isis. So people would be given this title like Mary Akhenaten or something. I mean, I don't think he was ever given that title, but it would mean the beloved of, the lover, and the loving one of Isis, Akhenaten, King Akhenaten, or whatever, right? So that term, I really follow D.M. Murdoch in that linguistic tracing, that's where Miriam and Mariam come from, is the Egyptian Mary. And it's that very strong meaning of the essential loving love master of the heart. But then for the feminine, there's the womb aspect of it, the master of the heart and the womb. Those are the Marys. And that's why her mother would have given her that name, Miriam or Mariam, and why there are so many Marys in the Bible, including Mary Magdalene. Okay. This is a priestess honorific title. In fact, I talk about how Mother Mary's half sister, because after Mother Mary was born, her mother Anne gave birth through the normal means to another girl who she also called Mary. I'm telling you, this is in the ancient texts, okay? Why would she call a second daughter Mary? Because she's giving her, that wasn't the woman's original name. I talk about her nickname in here, but she was given that name, Mary. And then she and Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, all three Marys, always walked with Jesus, according to the Gospel of Philip. They were like guarding him like a pubic triangle, okay, around him. The Marys and the other Marys. And this is why, Neil, I'm going to be having a Mary and Magdalene priestess training starting in September, because I am enabling people to embody this Mary title and this Magdalene title, which is a whole other related title, for themselves, for their spiritual growth and for their service in the world. So we are resurrecting a whole new cadre of Sacred Order of Marys, devoid of all that dogma, so that women can walk in the world and be receiving the information that's already there about what it means to be a Mary and a Magdalene, and then receiving more information themselves and doing this work out in the world, carrying this out. This is the second coming.
Wow. Have you done any research as when you talk about priestess schools, you know, when people think about Christianity, normally, especially conventionally, people don't think about priestess schools, right? You think
Yeah.
when you think of mystery schools, when you think of Greece a little bit, but when you really think about it, you think of Egypt. So
Yeah.
have you done any research into the origins of these priestess schools? Does it date back to Egypt? Does it go back further? What are some of the other um, priestess schools that were doing these similar practices and bringing in souls from other dimensions, bringing in souls from other
Yeah.
worlds?
Bringing souls from other worlds, other dimensions. Most of my research has focused on ancient Greece, and there's a really good book by a woman whose last name is Connolly, and it's called The Priestess, I think. I have it on my shelf. I could get it. She's examined all these shards about the priestesses of ancient Greece. We don't have evidence that there was like a priestess school, but there were colleges of these priestesses. So they must have existed. You have to train the women. We do know that, for example, the Delphic Oracle was trained to be able to do what she did, which was channel the voice of Apollo eventually. When I looked into Egypt, I mean, it's more even cryptic. I did find that there were women connected with Hathor. Okay. But you have to piece together that there must have been priestess schools or trainings. That's how much this documentation has been dissolved, essentially. But you know, if you are training women to run a temple, to do certain esoteric processes, we know the Vestal Virgins were trained. That for sure. Now that's in Rome. They had to be in training 10 years from the time they were like 6 years old until they could even start their processes. And then that lasted 10 years. And then they taught the younger ones for the last 10 years of their 30-year servitude there. So that was definitely a priestess school that is documented. But see, it's later, so we have more written about it. But going back to Egypt, but we have to surmise, we have to know, and we have to intuit. Of course, these schools were going on. Of course, these women were learning and teaching one another. It doesn't just pull out of a hat in patriarchy, because the veils are so thick. They have to be the specialists to go back into that. So that's pretty much what I would say about that. But okay, but in even the Hebrew Bible, you see, I talk about this in the mystery tradition of miraculous conception, as well as this one. I go into it a little bit more, that even the founding mothers of Judaism, Rachel, Leah, they're essentially, Sarah, these are essentially divine birth stories. They're conceptions. The virgins that are in the Hebrew temple are part of this story. Okay. And I talk a lot about this in these two books, what they were doing, what was going on, how they were relating to weaving. They were considered weavers. So that was part of the esoteric process they were being trained in for divine conception, for example. Okay. So these are just shards and tidbits that I'm giving you here. I go into much more of this in these books, but I still think there's more for us to uncover.
Right.
Okay.
Is Immaculate Conception the same as Divine Conception?
Right. So Immaculate Conception is actually the dogmatic Christian word referring to the doctrine that Mother Mary was born free of sin.
Immaculate.
It is not related to Jesus.
Yeah.
It means Mother Mary was born free of sin. Now, they weren't all wrong. Born free of sin. They weren't all wrong, because by virtue of her being divinely born of her mother, she did come in as a very high level avatar. You could say that was maybe without karma. Okay, is another way of saying being without sin. She was
Yeah.
out without karma. But Immaculate Conception does not refer to her birthing of Jesus.
Interesting.
That is what I call virgin birth or divine conception.
Yeah.
Okay, or parthenogenesis, to use the scientific term, but sacred parthenogenesis.
Thank you for clarifying, because I've been using Immaculate Conception as
I know.
the Virgin Birth until
I
now.
actually, my beautiful publisher, Bear and Company, actually had Immaculate Conception on the, the description of the book, and I was like, okay, we just need to change that to divine conception, okay?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's not a Catholic thing. It's not a Catholic program, and that's misunderstood anyway. And you can even see in that, yes, they say that she divinely gave birth to Jesus, but even in that title, they're disappearing the fact that she gave birth to Jesus in a way, or that her mother gave birth to her in virgin passion. All they're saying is she was born free of sin. Whatever. That's so boring, I mean, these other technologies are what we want to know about. So you see, there are subtle and overt ways of how this has been veiled over the centuries, this information.
So just to summarize some of what we just spoke about, it seems that there was a priestess school. Well, we're definitely talking about Mother Mary and Yeshua being a part of this priestess school, connected to the Essenes in that moment, most likely because she was an Essene. And this priestess school seemed to have gone back even further in the past. And I know you speak about Pythagoras connected to this, his mother, right? And so this goes back for quite some time, and it seems to be an order where they're able to use certain Siddhi powers, which is what they call in India, certain innate abilities within their own selves to intentionally pull in souls from specific areas in the multiverse and bring them into this reality for specific purposes.
That's right. The divine birth is the Siddhi power par excellence. It is the apex, the height of a human's ability to do something that we consider miraculous.
Okay, and where do they pull the souls from? Because I know we spoke about beings coming from the Pleiades before, but is it just the Pleiades? Is it other places? Yeah, what do you think?
I know this is a really excellent question, because William Henry and I had a whole conference that we did, like a half day on Mary as the Pleiadian star walker. Out and out is like she's from the Pleiades, and what I always receive is that these beings are from everywhere in the holographic sense of it. You can see evidence of them in Arcturus. You can see evidence of them. If you want to feel that they come from Arcturus, they come from there. And what that means is you're getting the Arcturian medicine around their master beingness. If you want to see them as coming from the Pleiades, you get the Pleiadian medicine. And I talk a lot about that this is feminine womb power. That's part of it, as well as heart power and unity power. You could see them as coming from Andromeda, Sirius, because their existence is in all of these places. The universe is holographic. Everything is everything, and everything is everywhere. So what you're doing is you're just pulling on the particular intelligence of them in their valence as Pleiadian. I have a whole chapter devoted in this to their valence with the She, the Fae, the fairy realm. Okay. And the relationship of the Marys to the unicorns. Okay. Like, we're not just talking about stuffed animals here, people. What's that whole mystery about? So they can, if it's your medicine to feel them from the Pleiades, yes, suck the juice of that aloe vera plant for all that it's worth for you, because she does have a strong energy associated with the Pleiades and the seven sisters of the Pleiades and what they were all about birthing on the planet, which I'll talk about on Saturday. Okay. Right. The net thickens.
It does.
The net thickens as you start realizing, oh my gosh, everything is connected. This is the net of Newt.
It seems like the Yeshua could even have been just not even personified before, but in all that is energy, basically like a personification of all that is.
That's right. He is the personification of all that is in its masculine valence, right?
True.
So he takes in Krishna, Shiva, Brahma, whoever you want to call, that is the best of the he takes the best of it all right, he's like the greatest hits of all of those guys. That's Jesus, right? And that's Mother Mary being able to have woven that in to his beingness. Like, can you imagine the quantum level of what she was engaged in? No wonder she's now a high goddess. I mean, the weaving of this being in the multiple levels and layers of what she had to be dealing with, light-wise, sound-wise, frequency-wise, right? It boggles the mind. It's like a 13th and beyond dimensional operation.
Yes, yes. Well, from what you're sharing, there's also deep metaphors and archetypal meanings here in regards to Mother Mary birthing a man.
That's
And
right.
the priest at school bringing in this man, and then Mary, and then Yeshua's counterpart Mary Magdalene also being a part of that divine union. Have you had? I'm sure you've had some time to contemplate and tune into that. What are your thoughts on the fact that it's this priestess school? They're doing these things without needing a man to seed them.
That's right.
In order to birth the human, and for some men who are ignorant to this, it might be disempowering, right?
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden we have the birthing of a man that is now embodying the divine masculine, coming from this feminine energy.
Yeah. So much to that, right? First of all, when you start getting to Mother Mary, what you're working with is the Shakti universe. So there's the Shiva universe. There are these, and it's so interesting because in the Holy Womb Chakra system teachings that I now offer, Sri Kaleshwar outlines the 3 creation stories. And two of them seem to be like, oh, it's a male creation. But when you dig underneath, you realize actually it's really more of a yin yang creation, right? So each one, it seems like, oh, no, the goddess is the big head honcho. No, the god is the big head honcho. He created everything. But then when you really look at what has to happen for that conception and creation, it's like, oh, there's an interplay of the masculine, feminine, the male, female energies. So with Mother Mary, we're more looking at it from the prism of the Shakti universe, the mother being the great container, but she contains the yin yang, you see. She contains the masculine, feminine. It's like Amachi, the great Hindu hugging saint. Somebody asked her, is God feminine or masculine? And she said, well, both, but if you have to look at one or the other, she's a little more feminine. You know what I mean? Because she's the womb of all creation, right? And yet you can't even stop there, because it's like, well, what does the womb do? The womb has to unify, has to plug in, has to have the bridal chamber of the masculine and feminine to do all the creation. You know what I'm saying? So it seems one thing, but it's not exactly another. But Mother Mary is the container. That's why there are these paintings of her with everyone under her skirt. The container of the universe, because she merged with Mother Divine, the holy womb of the universe. So she did that in bringing Jesus forth, right? So she's brought forth this massive avatar, this hologram of everything with a male valence, right? Because there's benefits and medicines that the masculine needed to bring in at that time at the Roman Empire, right then, okay, for the world and for the patriarchy that was existing and still is existing. Okay, so let me pause there and see if there was another part of your question that we want to hook back into.
Yeah, so let's see. Well, I had a follow-up to that. Maybe we will tune into this and go add more to it. is the feminine energy, if my question was really about the archetypes and the metaphors connected to the masculine being birthed
Yeah.
out of the feminine,
Yeah.
and you said you were sharing how that Amma was even saying that it's pretty much neutral, but it tilts towards the feminine because
That's right.
it's the container, kind of like how, for example, yeah, as you shared as well, the sperm fertilizes the egg, but then the womb holds that in order to be
That's
created,
right.
right?
That's
So
right.
and so it seems like my question now is like, because obviously, like when it comes to gender on
Oh,
this
yes.
planet, we have genitals, and that's a
Yes.
female and that's a male one. But when we're talking about the universe and cosmos, it's not really like that. So is it like
Yeah.
a feminine energy that is genderless?
Well, get this, Neil. One thing I've been teaching recently is something that I uncovered in the Gnostic Gospels. The human form used to be hermaphroditic.
Hmm.
We were
Yeah,
united. We did not have any of this like only vagina, only phallus. Okay.
yeah,
Plato talks about this, and then I found it in the Gnostic sources. It used to be hermaphroditic in the time of Lemuria and earlier, and Rudolf Steiner talks about that as well. So guess who split the humans in half?
tell me.
Our friends, the reptilians, essentially. Okay. They split us. That's the story of Zeus orchestrating this in the Greek tradition. Okay.
You know,
Now, to further complicate this, Plato said there were three, in Plato, the story goes, there were three types of hermaphrodites. One was
yeah,
male female, one was male male, and one was female female. And so that's why we have some heterosexual people and some people who are, you know, homosexually oriented, because
hmm,
their twin soul is their likeness, their mirror.
hmm,
Okay, but for the male female hermaphrodite, which it seems to be like it was the majority of the people. Yeah, Zeus just came in and was just like chop.
yeah,
Now that is a trauma that we have never gotten over. However, to make up for it, we created things like the bridal chamber sacrament in Gnosticism, which is the inner unification, the return of the masculine feminine, and then the sacred marriage rituals, which is the male female coming together in queenship, kingship, and becoming the original hermaphrodite and then blessing the land through that way. Okay.
hmm,
Some of this languaging is the first time I'm actually saying it in this way. Okay. So for your audience, but we're limping along here, and but the thing is that when that split happened, the female had the benefit
hmm,
because she had the womb, which is the alchemical chamber, and she could do a lot of stuff with it. She could
yeah,
still impregnate herself through her inner process, where the male cannot. And this has been a problem ever since that has led to, all of these kinds of problems. It's not men that are to blame. It's the reptilian energy that has been
right,
infiltrating, okay, upon us and creating all these sexual problems. So
right,
violence and everything. So the thing is that we're all doing the best we can. Parthenogenesis, or virgin birth, divine conception, was a process that these split up humans were trying the best they could through this priestesshood to still maintain bringing in the holy avatars. Okay, because how my understanding is that when we were one like this, we would just self-replicate. And when
yeah,
we were connected with the high divine, we were bringing in these high beings. But now patriarchy, the split, we're going down. The
yeah,
dimensions are going down. The priestesses are trying to hold on to bring in divine beings through this mechanism that they have cultivated despite all this perfidy that's been going on. Okay. So, and then there's still, though, is those sacred marriage rites. And the thing is that any person can have a sacred marriage rite with your complement. right? And you can give birth to a divine child. And I talk about how Sri Kaleshwar has a 2-process mantra for doing this for couples who want to conceive. So it's not just, okay, granted, it may or may not be a Jesus that's coming in, but it can be a higher vibrational child because of these angelic forces that you're calling in at the time of conception. All right. So this is the network of how vast this thing is, and nobody is left out. Nobody is even left out of the Holy Womb Chakra teachings, because all men have the Nada Bindu point, which is the portal point below your navel that draws you back to this feminine lineage. Okay. So no one is left out. There's a role for everyone. There's healing for everyone. And what I'm talking about when I'm talking about divine birth is just a high level priestess technology, quantum physics practice. It is not aiming to outdo natural sexual relating between people, outdo the male, nothing. No.
It seems like I have a lot I want to say about what you just said, but I'm gonna keep it as short. But it seems like even through sex, we're trying to come back to the original state.
We are. That's why it's so compelling. And it's also why it's an entry point for so many entities and insertions and things like that, because they love to siphon off that sexual energy. So it's just a whole thing that's been going on that we have to awaken to, that we are awakening to, and that we are clearing. And Mother Mary, Jesus, and Magdalene and the others knew about this. Jesus was teaching about this stuff. It's all in the Gnostic Gospels, and I have workshops on this. And they were like, essentially, the sexual issue is the biggest one that humanity needs to heal.
100%. You know, the story of Adam and Eve is the story that you just mentioned, which is, Adam was actually not fertile until Eve was created.
Well, here's the thing, Neil. There's an even earlier story. Adam and Eve were one. They were one. It's in the Gnostic story. They were the original androgyne that was split.
Yeah.
That's what it means that Eve came out of Adam's rib. That's a
exactly.
patriarchal
and then it was distorted to make it look like she's lesser than.
That's right. But no, they were one, and then that story of Eve coming out of the rib was the description of the splitting of the sexes right there.
Right. So I would love to. So yesterday I interviewed Paul Wallace. Are you familiar with him?
No.
He's done the Eden series. Is the Eden Conspiracy, the Scars of Eden. He was a pastor, a priest that basically started realizing that the Old Testament could have been actual cases of paleo contact with extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
And so in this, I was going to read this to you, and you can see the connection here. So the Adam and Eve story, here's the original text of that story, okay? And part that isn't put in here is, I'll just add the ending part right now, is that the reason why originally in the Sumerian scriptures, which I'm going to read to you, that this happened was that the hermaphrodite human that was created by these gods in order to do whatever they were supposed to do on the planet was not at a level of happiness and contentment and wholeness by himself, and they wanted to create a separation in order to give him a counterpart so that he could basically feel his wholeness, or maybe a reflection of himself, like experiencing himself. So listen to this. For another example, in the Sumerian story, there's a conflict among the sky people over whether humans should be male and female, fertile, conscious, and intelligent. Enlil, the senior space commander, this is Yahweh, Enlil, says no, we don't want them too much like us. Enki, this is the snake, an older brother, though junior in rank, breaks rank and proceeds unilaterally with the genetic modification to upgrade the humans to give them to the male and female.
I think there's a lot to that, because where these stories come in the Bible, even the Gnostic stuff, it's already at a level where the reps are operating. And I think there are these earlier seedings where we're more angelic Okay, we're more angelic. By the time we start hearing these stories, there's already been a genetic tampering. Like, I don't have in my mind the exact timeline of how it got, but I'm trying to piece it together, and it feels like stuff like that is helping us to piece it together. And then the question is, where do the seven sisters of the Pleiades, who seeded much of humanity, come into that timeline? You know what I mean? Like, is that before, after, right? So
Right.
the
And
point
just to say, there's a story about how the Anunnaki were originally from the Pleiades as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. So
you
there's
know,
just
right? What's happening is an awakening of humanity to who we really are. And this
mhm,
whole Sophia Christos mission, as I call it, is part of that. It's what they were about 2,000 years ago when they came in the incarnations as we know them. It's what they were about in various Egyptian incarnations, Hindu incarnations, all over the planet incarnations. And we're awakening to this second coming now, which is like the awakening to the sacred feminine, the awakening to who we really are as angelic beings genetically, what other influences we have in our body, mind, spirits that are like, oh my gosh, we're dealing with that on top of it all, right? So this is what you and I are describing, and it is
yeah,
so relevant to this unveiling of Mother Mary right now.
exactly. And I'm just going to take a pause here for everybody who's just been tuning in over the last 30 minutes. I'm here with Marguerite Rigoglioso. After years, I still can't say your last name correctly.
No one can. Well, the way it is it's regal, like queen,
There
regal
we go.
yoso, because it's
Rigoglioso.
one of the only
Rigoglioso.
non-phonetic, words in Italian. Whatever it means.
I've written your name. I've written your name countless times over the last 3-4 years, and every time I got to look it up.
I know.
I still,
We should just stop writing the actual name and just write regal yoso, and
I
then my
know,
little
right? We
brackets
should.
just to help people. Yeah, because it's like,
We
unless
should.
you're an Italian speaker, it's difficult. But anyway.
Exactly. So okay, we're talking to Marguerite Regal Yozo, and we are speaking about her book that is coming out. It's not out yet, and it's called Is it The Secret Life
The Secret Life of
of
Mother
Mother
Mary.
Mary? And when will the book be out? Is it out already? They can pre-order it.
They can pre-order. They can pre-order in paperback and Kindle. It will be coming out in audio. The actual date that it comes out and that they will start mailing them to you is July 16th. And people are warmly welcome to come to our book birthing party on July 16th. You'll get lots of really free, really good gifts if you have pre-ordered or buy the book that day, and we'll tell you how to do that. So you go to sevensistersmysteryschool.com, and that information will be up top, just how to join us very soon.
Okay, beautiful. And I know a lot of our community are deep into Mother Mary and Yeshua, and some of the events that we have the most people attend are those events. So I know a lot of you out there are into this. And Marguerite is just an amazing scholar and researcher, and everything that you put together. Every time I see anything posting by you, any Instagram post, I immediately have a smile on my face. Like, you're like one of the best. You're one of the best. All right, so I want to get back. I want to get back into your book just for a little more here.
Yeah.
And so you speak about in your book about Mother Mary, and it seems like, as we mentioned before, the seedy powers. It seems that she had some innate gifts and abilities. That she was a healer. She did exorcism. She's taught. She was the teacher to Yeshua, and we hear all these miracles about what Yeshua did, right? So she probably helped assist him in learning those things, and also assistance in deep yogic practices to help resurrect him, right? Or even when he was on the cross. Could you speak about some of that? What were these powers? How does she obtain them?
Yeah. Well, yes, she had the power to bring things back to life, which she did with Jesus through Parakaya Pravesh and Atmakandana Yoga. She had the power to rid people of unwanted energies. She had the power to miraculously heal people physically and emotionally from things, etc. Okay, anything that a holy person does that we want them to do, she was doing that, and that's what her biographies tell us about. And how she did that is what I talk about in this book, is what Sri Kaleshwar fills in. And we've been talking about Sri Kaleshwar, the late Hindu saint. He was only here for 36 years, gave us all this stuff, and then he's like, goodbye, So she had a practice. And I describe that practice in this book of what she did daily. Sri Kaleshwar says a bunch of stuff about it, how she used her day. And then don't you know that in one of the ancient texts, I find in Christianity a very similar description of what she does. So she did her meditation. She did her mantras. Okay. She did her talking and channeling with the angelic forces and with Mother Divine. She didn't just walk around like, I'm good. I'm good. I'm divine. She was at it. She's like, I'm in a human body. Holy cow. I got to keep this up. All right. So she knew all these mantra channels that were giving her these various powers, according to Sri Kaleshwar. And these mantras are available now. I mean, I teach them in the Holy Womb Chakra teachings. I mean, it's amazing, the power of mantra to change your life and change our world. Because why? Mantras are composed of bijaksharas, syllables. What Sri Kaleshwar taught me is that each syllable is connected to an angel, an angelic force. So if you're saying Ma, if you're saying Deem, if you're saying Ra, ooh, hark, this angelic force is like, hi, okay, what's going on? And then each mantra is like a necklace of different beads. So this is what I've come to understand over the years of working with this. So it's like its own little xylophone. And you start saying these mantras and you're like, ding, 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 calling on all these angelic forces. That's how it works. It's not just like droning on, because you can also do it internally. This is the power of mantra. To call on the angelic forces.
Right.
And imprint it in your body and your holographic reality field, so that all of a sudden I talk about some of the things that have happened in my life. Okay. Because of these mantras.
Wow. And she wasn't aimlessly doing mantras. She wasn't looking up a YouTube video and having 10 YouTube videos in the watch list and doing them randomly.
Yeah. I'm going to do the Ganesh mantra today. No.
She was a part of a priestess school where this had been passed down for hundreds, thousands of years.
Yeah. And Kaleshwar says, she and Magdalene and Jesus actually added to these mantras that are in the Holy Womb Chakra system.
And so that was my next question, literally was, can we do this now? And what you're sharing is, yes, we can. And is that something that you will be teaching?
Yes, I already have available the Holy Womb Chakra teachings through Seven Sisters Mystery School. Just go to the homepage. You can find it. Highly recommended. And there's a companion course, the advanced seminar, that gives you the whole enchilada of what you need to do to activate and have these mantras absorb into you and let them, keep this alive, purify your womb, and then empower it. And then, again, the Mary and Magdalene priestess training will touch into more of this kind of material. But also, the Divine Mother Center has like the element mantras, which give you the Siddhic powers. Okay, they start getting, and one of the mantras in the Holy Womb Chakra system is the one that Jesus used to develop the Siddhic powers. Okay, so you get started on developing your own Siddhic powers. What does that mean? Well, the ability to work with the material realm in seemingly non-ordinary ways. And then if you go through, I'm probably going to get trained and eventually offer the element mantras. You start earth, air, fire, water. Okay. You start being able to work with these principles and these substances and get yourself on that road to Siddhic powerhood.
Mm. Do you think that the priestess order of divine conception continued up until today?
You know, that is a really good question, Neil. I've asked myself numerous times, does an order exist on the planet today? I mean, I know that it existed into Mary's time. I know that it existed into King Arthur's time because all the stories of divine conception around that. But I sense that after King Arthur's time and the cutting of Camelot and Avalon, something really got lost. So I don't know if there's an underground order, either in Europe or in the Middle East or in somewhere else on the planet that is still doing this. I do know of instances of women who have knowingly or unknowingly cultivated divine birthings, divine conceptions. Okay. And I talk about that in both of these, and especially in the mystery tradition of miraculous conception. But if there is a holy order that is extant around this, I certainly welcome them to communicate with me in the perfect way and in the perfect time.
Mm-hmm.
And we hold the holographic impression of such a priestesshood. Okay, regardless.
Well,
right?
You do.
Because it's about, and it's because it's about the resurrection of this.
Yeah. And then we went deep into the Kali Yuga, as you know. And so at that point, every age, there's always those that are awakened to higher ages within those ages. There's just smaller groups, right?
That's right.
So either we got disconnected from that ability for a while because that's where we were supposed to be, or we became in such a lower density that it really has to be 100% off the grid in some sort of, in some sort of order that we can't probably see or even like stumble into in day-to-day life. So if it does exist, right?
Yeah. But we can still connect up with it through the Akasha, through the Akashic records, we can tune into it.
Well, actually, come to think of it, it's like this is the age of the self-guru rather than the guru. So
exactly.
So rather than having to do this divine conception to bring in a savior, what's really important are these tools that you're talking about so that we tap into our Siddhi powers.
That's
we start doing this.
Yeah. It's the inner androgyne, the inner hermaphrodite that we are coming to. That is our actual original blueprint. We can still restore it. And it's what we are all coming to. It's what we are all wanting. And in fact, divine birth may not even be necessary once we reinstigate all of that, fully turn on our DNA, right? And awaken our consciousness and return to Eden, essentially.
Yeah. It's so interesting, so beautiful. This is like, these stories are actual things that happen, but they're also metaphors of our internal world, like return to Eden, like
that's right.
Eden existed, dimension, planet, place, but it's like that Eden within us, right?
That is, it's everything's within you. I've had these medicine ceremonies where I'm like, oh my gosh, the entire universe is, the whole network of stars is inside of me, and that's what they're trying to show you. It's like at the 0 point of each chakra, right? So I have this meditation I've been given with the petals of life, the 12 petals at each chakra that you start rotating, and you pull out the 0 point energy into your field of source creator.
Yeah.
As love, right? So simple things. We just got to practice them like Mother Mary did every single day.
Yeah. So as we're closing out here, well, first of all, like I really want you to, I do a conference every year in Glastonbury in Avalon. I don't know if you know that. Yeah, no. I have one this year. It's my second annual, and I want you to come to the one next year. Like I want to bring you out, and I want you to come out there, and I also want to do maybe a retreat with you afterwards.
Neil, I would so love that.
I'm realizing in this conversation, like I didn't even think about it, but that's right up your alley. Like that's your frequency there,
Yes, it is, for a number of reasons. And also, with the Christic Sophia energy that's there and the King Arthur Guinevere energy that's there. And I've taught about them. They are another iteration of this. Okay. There's these octaves of these beings, and the whole Avalon thing is another Christic iteration. but it has
Right.
its own flavor, its own. The clothes to die for from that era, you know, Marguerite, she loves all that. Okay. And then it's also connected to the fairy. Okay. The fairy and the fae. And what is this
Yep,
unicorn
yep.
business? Like, I'm just starting to unveil the unicorns in my
That's the area for all this. You know, it was the last stronghold. That area was the last stronghold of the
yeah,
Druidic ways. You
that's
know,
right.
so
And the Druidic ways are essentially the Christic Sophia ways that
yep,
predate even Jesus and Magdalene's advent on the planet. It's a whole line of energy, right?
exactly. Yeah,
So yeah, and there's like, you know, Ireland and everything. Zero stars over there right now, and Lisa Renee for years has been saying, you know, the British Isles are like so important, right? This is this Avalonian portal, and it's a major place where things went up and went down, right?
yes,
So I love that land. I have so much karma associated with it. I mean, many lives
yeah,
and
yeah,
all of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I'd love to come over there.
All right, we'll make it happen. All
All
right, so
right.
as we're closing here, first I want to read these couple comments.
Oh yeah.
Luis Lopez says, "Thank you, peace, strength, joy from Ligrail in Portugal. May Our Lady of the Rosary of Fatima bless you."
Oh, I received that. Thank you so much, beautiful brother. That is wonderful.
We
You
have
see,
Ellen here
she
saying, "Is
appears, you know, this energy appears. She's like, hey, let me give you
yeah,
some little help over
yeah,
here.
right."
Right? Okay.
And Ellen says, "Is there a button to push that means these words move my heart?" Yeah. So
I'm
so
so glad.
as we're closing out here, you know, I want to just take a moment and first I want to like honor you and pay reverence for just the amount of passion and
Oh,
how inspired you are in really coming out with this information. You know, as you know, I work with hundreds of people, and you know, just your authenticity and your inspiration and passion. I just love everything you put together. Some of your presentations have just put pieces together for me, you know, in my journey and my search for this all.
bless
So I appreciate it very much. I'd love for you as we're closing out here. I want to know like what would you want? What do you feel from your mission that you want the world to get out of what you're creating? And especially since we're talking about this book, what what legacy, what kind of impact are you leaving on the world or creating by just putting out this awareness at this moment?
Wow, that kind of takes my breath away, you know, because I've been like niggling away, you know, step by step, and it's like legacy, yeah, right. Well, you know, first of all, thank you because I'm so grateful for you, us having this chemistry, you know, from the beginning. Like it's just been so. I really so appreciate you. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a man who gets it, and look at what he's doing. I've always been so excited for you, so thank you. It's
Thanks.
nice to like be mirrored back, right? Because I work hard, I gotta say, you know. Um,
Hmm.
and so it's so nice to have this flowering every once in a while of like, oh, like-minded, like let's get exponential with our conversation. And so that's what happens. And so I would say, like, in terms of what I wish for and hope for people, is what I wish for and hope for myself, which is this true awakening of this true accessing of our love powers, of our seeing and wisdom powers, of our creating powers, of our pleasure back again, this true resurrection of Eden. That's what I want. And I feel like books like the ones that I've written are steps along the way to help give us more codes, to put it into practical use in our lives and have the effects start happening, right? So it's a path of, that's why the subtitle is Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening, because that's all very lofty, and we're doing the personal healing. We're healing traumas and things that our life, you know, we've come into these lineages and all of that. And the Marys and Yeshua and these other great beings are here for us, right? They really seriously want to help us. So the other piece is, you know, call on them who are aspects of your higher self that you are cultivating to really really activate this, really awaken this empowerment within yourself.
Mm. Beautifully said. Thank you so much. Let's just all breathe that in, that we have the support and this guidance all around us now. So I invite everybody tuning in to take a deep breath in. Beautiful. Marguerite, has so much fun talking to you.
Me too. And thank you, because I know it's so super early for you where you are, in Thailand. And thank you for all the work you're doing and just being
Thank you.
awake at
Thank
every
you.
hour. And I'll see you on Saturday, and perhaps some others with us for the Pleiadian conference, where more layers of this Earth history and what we do with it are going to be revealed.
Exactly, yes. So thank you everybody for tuning in. And as Marguerite just mentioned, on Saturday, June 29th, which is just in a couple of days from now, we have our annual Palladian conference. And you can sign up at portaltoascension.org under events there. And Marguerite's going to be there. We have around 6 other presenters. So we're going to be going deep on Saturday. Hope to see some of you there. If you're watching this after Saturday, you can still sign up. You get unlimited replay access. So, and that's it for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Love you all so much, and we'll see you again sometime soon. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.